From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two guys who dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive, recorded live Saturday, 27 September 2014, episode 116, hashtag Bend Gates. Well, welcome once again to another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive, and I'm Rob Wade, and you'll notice again I'm going solo. Robert had mentioned last week that he had some things in the offing. He kind of told me some details about it after the show last week to let me know what might be happening. So we might be looking at a day change for a time change for the podcast. And excuse me while I bring one of our guests into the scene here. And that would be Greza, one of our 4 permanent party dogs. Say hi to everybody. Yeah. And then we have a 5th that's a foster that we're taking care of for Pet's Wish, which is a local pet rescue. And I'll be talking about them a little bit later on the show. And it looks like one of our others is wanting to join the cast here. And this is Ronan. Say hi. Or not. He gets so bashful. He's like a typical kid. And they kind of scoop me off the seat. They end up taking up the whole back area. I don't know if you can see. Here, let me switch cameras so you can see what they put me through. Here we go. Well, that's not good. You really can't see either. Yeah, they're all tucked around behind me there. So anyway... yeah, they insist on sitting up here with me. It's usually at least 1, often 2, and if I'm not really doing anything that's keyboard intensive, I may have a 3rd in my lap. But thankfully, I've just got the 1 or the 2 back here. So anyway, as I was saying, we might be looking at a day change for the show, depending on what Scubadog has going on. Unfortunately. When you have a family, you have to have very good planning skills, in my opinion, in order to organize your life around the things that you want to do. And unfortunately, he did not let me know until just the last couple of hours that he wasn't going to be able to make the podcast tonight, because of some things going on, family obligations that he's going to have to play Mr. Mom for. So hopefully he doesn't run into any issues there. But, I think they're going to, have plenty of entertainment choices. But it does get kind of challenging and frustrating when, we're a show called Two Guys Who Dive, and I'm missing the second guy fairly frequently because of things. I'll take this opportunity to just kind of throw this generally out there for folks. You have this thing called a smartphone. Most of you do. And so it's I don't understand why you wouldn't use that technology to help organize your life. I use Windows products. The main studio machine here is a Windows 8.1 PC with dual monitor, which you can see here. And I also have the Surface Pro 3 that's kind of replaced, for the most part, my laptop. And then I have, of course, my Lumia 1020 smartphone. And the beauty of the ecosystem is with the OneDrive, their cloud solution, all of this integrates together. And to some extent, as early as it is in its life, it also interfaces to some degree with our Xbox One. But I said all that to say what I've been going for is an integration of my processes. By no means do I have everything down, but I do keep everything that I can think of in my calendar. I absolutely use my calendar. You may have seen movies or even just in real life seen people, especially back in the day, who always run around with those day runners. You remember those things, those bulky little, matter of fact, I don't even have one, but it's like a notebook, but you keep all sorts of things in there, journal, calendar, address book, for everything in there. People used to run around with that, and that's how they organized their lives. They kept all their notes about people, their job, things around the household in there. They kept their calendar in there. So let me check my schedule to see if I am available for this, that, or the other thing. Well, smartphones are really the handy multifunction device that really should take the place of the day runner. And so I think anybody who has a smartphone is making a huge mistake in an organization of their life and time management if they don't right off the bat start getting into the habit of plugging everything in to your calendar. I mean everything. As a matter of fact, my wife and I have our individual calendars, and then we also, again, the beauty of the Windows ecosystem, we also have a family calendar. So if there's something that needs to go in on our schedules that both of us are either participating in or at least need the situational awareness of, we plug it in there. So you can, when you're setting up an appointment on your calendar, you can simply tell it which calendar it's going on to. Now, again, the beauty across the ecosystem, whether it's the Windows 8 PC or the tablet or the smartphone, you can display any or all of the calendars that you have for the various accounts you have. So I have one, for instance, for the Two Guys Who Dive account, because we also have our Skype messaging, and we can use that. And also I have, I'm interfaced. I also bring in the calendar from our church, because our church has a wildly different schedule than what I have. Things for me personally, I plug into my own calendar, Robert's calendar. Things for the family that both my wife and I need to be aware of, I plug it in there. If it's plugged into the church calendar, then I see that as well, and I can determine to what degree those interface. So I always know what's going on with my schedule. In some cases, it's just something, it's in my schedule that I'm not actually participating on, but I need to know, I need awareness of it because other people that I know may need to be aware of it. But what I'm saying is, bottom line about that is, you should get used to using the technology to help you out. I think it's a huge mistake, as easy as it is now to utilize this technology, that it's right there in your hands. It's in your pocket, or maybe not anymore, as we'll talk about a little bit later. It's so accessible to keep on track of what you're doing, what's going on in your life. There should never, ever be a surprise unless it's intended to be a surprise, or it's something like an accident or an illness or something like that. There shouldn't be a surprise in your life. I don't understand why anything catches people off guard. Oh, I forgot about this, or I forgot about that. Really? Why don't you have it in your calendar? I have every meeting. I have even going to church, it plugged into my calendar. So I know that's time I don't have available for other things. I'm also part of a contemporary Christian band, Living Water Sound. And, we have events, gigs every so often, or practices. And so I plug those in as well. So I know what I have available. If let's say the leader of our band sends out a text to everybody, a group text, and says, hey, we're looking at doing a quick pickup rehearsal on such and such day, how's that look for everybody? Well, I know I can say with complete confidence when I look at my calendar whether or not I have that available. because I'm in the habit of plugging things in. So when it comes to something like participating in a podcast, if you don't already have that plugged in as a permanent part, if we're scheduled every once every week, that should be a permanent thing that with very few exceptions that you can get out of. In other words, place things on your calendar and then stick to that. What's the sense of saying you'll do something when anything that comes along can distract you from it? And I know people I've known people all my life who their lives are chaos because they don't utilize a calendar the right way. They'll overextend themselves and then allow every little thing to throw them outside of the schedule. And that frustrates those who are depending on them, whether it's friends or family or job. So, like I said, I'm not picking on Robert, but anybody who watches the show knows that it's kind of frequent that he's unavailable. Sometimes it's scheduled. Sometimes he lets me know well ahead, and that's great because I can plan appropriately. I have an opportunity to maybe get a guest host to come in. But when it's the day of, I don't really have much opportunity to come up with a backup plan. Of course, anybody who knows me, and if you've seen all the shows where I go solo, you see I have no problem talking to you folks. It's easy enough to do. I can talk to a brick wall because I do treat it like you're there, whether you're watching live or watching it on YouTube. Which, by the way, if you are watching, please jump into the chat room. I'll see when somebody enters in there, and there'll be a little bit of delay between what you see or what we're doing and what you see. So when you're responding to it, it may be up to a minute later that we are actually, since we actually were talking about that thing that you're reacting to. But by all means, we're watching the chat room to see if there's anybody in there that wants to pose a question, make a comment, or bail us out when we have a question about something, or we don't have something on the tip of our tongue. So anyway, so I think it's important for people to bring their lives into some semblance of order. Use the technology that's at your fingertips. Whether that's your iPad, your iPhone, your Windows phone, your Android phone, or Android tablet, or Windows PC, doesn't matter. They all are shooting for the same features, which is to integrate all the social and personal aspects of your life and professional aspects of your life. So you have the technology, you have calendars, you have ways to communicate, multiple ways to communicate. So I encourage you to plug those things in, especially if somebody comes up to you, because this is the habit I got into. Quite often, I'll have somebody just mention something offhand. We're in a group or some social situation to say, hey, I'm looking at doing X, Y, or Z later this year, in October, and we'd like you to be a part of it. And that's, I may, if I'm interested at all, or if there's a possibility, I'll say yes. I try to pull more detail, at least a day, an actual day that it's going to happen. And then I'll just bring up my calendar and plug that in, at least for me personally, into my personal calendar. If it turns out later that it's something that, as more details come out, that it involves both of us, my wife and I, then I'll switch it over. I'll drag it over to the family calendar. No big deal, and I'll add the details. But it's that way you can plan even further ahead rather than living day to day, hour to hour in crisis management. Nobody likes to live that way, and it's no wonder why we have the high stresses that we have, is because people's lives are chaotic. They don't organize. You find that the people who are the happiest, even though they may be the busiest, they're the most organized because they have some mechanism that they're using on a regular basis to keep it all together. So I encourage you, use the technology. If you're not sure how to use that technology to that kind of benefit, I can almost guarantee you have somebody in your life, a friend, a coworker, who digs this stuff and lives this stuff and will be more than happy to show, oh, yeah, it's just, oh, here's how you do. And they'll enthusiastically show that to you. I'm that way. Troy McGonigal, who sometimes co-hosts the show, he's that way. Although, he still even has some issues, some challenges every so often, utilizing that fully. I don't think he keeps as much in his calendar as I do. I keep everything in there. So I know the time slots that I have available. Sometimes when you're that busy, you really have to program in. You've got to plan for your downtime. Many people spend a lot of effort actually planning our vacations, whether it's a staycation or vacation. You're coordinating with work, you're coordinating with people who are maybe going to watch your house or take care of your pets, or you're going to take them to a kennel, whatever your situation is. We go through a lot of planning for our vacations, but the busier you get, you really need to plan your downtime. Otherwise, it's very easy to suddenly say yes to everything, and you end up missing that appointment or that meeting or this social opportunity, and frustrating those around you because they end up calling you inconsistent or independable, or you end up eating up all of your time, and suddenly you're wondering, why don't I have enough time for me? So again, I can't stress enough utilizing the technology to help organize use a calendar. Use the calendar. You carry it around with you every day. If you've got a smartphone or even a feature phone, you carry it around every day. So why not use it to the fullest extent possible? All right, off the soapbox. Okay, title of the episode is Bendgate. #Bendgate. We kind of touched on a little bit about the trials and pains of the iPhone 6 launch, particularly the iPhone 6 Plus, because it's a 5.5-inch, and there goes our Foster, 5.5-inch device made out of aluminum, and that there were reports coming out that the device can be bent. And so as it turns out, if you've got an iPhone, I feel sorry for you. But they've been having problems with iOS 8, especially with 8.0.1, which got released to address some issues, and then they had to pull it because it was actually making things worse. So that aside, it looks like now the fervor over the Bendgate issue with the iPhone 6 Plus has kind of brought another badge of shame. And of course, Apple has gone to their tried and true ways of dealing with it. For those who use the device, have been Apple fans for a long time, you may remember the Applegate or the Antenna Gate issue, where reception was really, really bad. The connectivity issues abounded, and people found that it was how the antenna was designed in the device, and I think it was only on the devices that use the same kind of network that AT&T uses. I don't think Verizon customers had that problem, but and of course, the thing that came out of Apple for a while, which was a huge mistake, was they said you're holding it wrong. I'm like, it's a smartphone. How do you expect people to hold it? I'm typically going to hold it the way I talk on it or the way I access the buttons. So in the case of like the Windows Phone, all of the buttons are on the right side, which I love. I'm not a fan of the devices where the buttons are split across the two sides. I like the one-handed operation, either thumb or the fingers, whichever way. There's not too many ways you can hold it that would be that would still be functional. So, but Apple was telling people that, hey, you're holding it wrong. Well, fast forward to 2014, the iPhone 6 Plus comes out, and there are a few people, it's a very small number, but probably because now everybody's aware of it and now they're being careful, that if you have it in your pocket and happen to sit down the wrong way or with tight pants or there's a number of excuses, the device bends and stays bent. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull it up here. Dun, dun, dun. See if I can find what Apple said about it. Here we go. Okay. Show you some pictures here. Switch to the screen region. So here's what's going on. It's actually this appears to be a weak spot on the 6 Plus. If you bend it, and this person's showing it bent, it bends. Even though you may be bending it towards the middle, this right where the cutouts are for the buttons on the left side look like that's the weak area, and so it bends with people putting it in their pockets apparently. And of course, Apple's responding, as it says here in this article, with normal use, a bend in an iPhone is extremely rare, and through our first 6 days of sale, a total of 9 customers have contacted Apple with a bent iPhone 6 Plus. Of course, there's higher numbers than that now, but to have that happen that quickly, I'd still be concerned. And that it can happen means that all those other people just haven't had the conditions, set the conditions where it causes a problem. But of course, Apple says our iPhones are designed and engineered and manufactured to be both beautiful and sturdy. The iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus feature a precision-engineered unibody enclosure constructed from machining a custom grade of 6000 series anodized aluminum, which is tempered for extra strength. Okay, so and then drop down. It says, with normal use, a bend in iPhone is extremely rare. With normal use. Okay, so basically what they're trying to tell people is that you're not using it normally. Okay? So, interestingly, there was see if I can find it. Here we go. Well, did I keep it? No. Darn. I had well, let me show this video. This was kind of interesting.
Presented by Squarespace. What's up, guys? Lou here, back with another video, and today we're going to be doing the official iPhone 6 Plus bend test. Now, normally I wouldn't do a video like this, but I woke up this morning and saw a number of reports claiming that the iPhone 6 Plus was bending inside of people's pockets. So I decided to pull mine out of my pocket. I'd been using it as my regular phone for the last couple of days, and upon inspection, I actually noticed a tiny little indentation towards the center of the device, which kind of implies a little bit of a bend. Not much, nothing conclusive, but some of the images I've seen from other people show a far more significant bend, and the claims are that people are just using it in their front pocket, which normally wouldn't result in a bent aluminum phone. But in this particular case, we have such a large device, I could see this being a significant concern for people. So for the sake of science,
I could actually see it happening more frequently in the back pocket, depending on how you're wearing your pants,
to make this thing unusable or essentially bent in such a fashion that you would be pissed off as the owner of one of these devices. So without further ado, let's get into the iPhone 6 Plus bend test.
Now, I think it bears noting he's doing this in the span of just a few seconds. And this normally, because of you can see the kind of pressure he is putting on it, although it very easily bent. Look at that. I would argue this kind of bend shouldn't happen in a short time in your pocket. But if you tend to put it in your pocket the same way and do this over time, I think it would gradually work its way into the kind of bend that we're seeing folks experiencing. I'd say that's a pretty significant weakness given that it's that size and the aluminum. Aluminum bends, folks. I mean, let's just accept that as a fact. Aluminum's going to bend. Unless you have something
there you have it, guys.
that helps reinforce
but
it.
Under the pressure of my hands, it does bend quite significantly, specifically around this portion here where the buttons were. My focus was more in the center portion, but it seems to be a weak point up here near the button cutouts. Bottom line here is it's an aluminum phone. It is going to bend if you apply enough pressure like I just did. Now, will this happen in your front pocket? That probably depends on how tight your pants are and how often you're wearing this in your pocket. I think it could. This was painful to do, but for the sake of science, to let you guys know if it's an actual possibility, it looks like it will be a possibility on the iPhone 6 Plus. Not necessarily the piece of information that you guys want to receive as brand new owners of this device. It's probably not going to be the most durable from that standpoint, but it's a huge footprint. Look at the footprint of that thing. This is a huge piece of aluminum, and we all bend phone after the fact. Yes, it bends under the force of my hand pressure, just pushing on it. The aluminum bends, even with this.
I think he discovered that you can't. Yeah, I know he discovered.
Apple responds to this.
If
I get any updates, I'll let you guys know in an upcoming
without
video.
possibly
And quick
incurring
reminder,
damage.
I've got an extra iPhone, regular iPhone 6 that I'm going to be giving away shortly. So subscribe for that. Maybe this was painful, like I said before, but it's all for the sake of science, so that you get a little bit more info.
Okay, let me skip down. I think it was on this one.
Presented by Squarespace. Okay, so I mentioned about the 6 Plus. As I attempted to bend it back to its original form, it cracked in that location, and it also cracked the glass on the screen, as I hope you can see there in that image. So we ended up with a crack after all, so a little bit less usable than just a bend. So I don't know what my recommendation is. If yours ends up bent, probably just leave it that way, because when you attempt to bend it back, you might very well end up cracking the display along with it. But enough about the 6 Plus.
Okay, so he's going to say, all right, we'll see what happens with a similar sized device also using aluminum.
Note 3. Let's go.
Now, I can tell by his thumbs, he's applying even more pressure than he ever did with the iPhone. And it ain't budging. It's a lot of pressure.
So this Note 3 was actually dead, so I just got a battery backup here to charge it up. Should have checked that before I started recording. But this is amazing. With the same or maybe more force, this thing
was clearly more force.
Hasn't bent at all. Or it bent. It bent as I was doing it. It was creaking and making all kinds of crazy noises, but ultimately no damage. Let's go ahead one more time here.
Okay. So ultimately he showed, and actually the same guy did the test with the new Motorola phone, the HTC M1 or X1, whatever it is, 1, M8, whatever it is, and also the Lumia 1020, and nothing. And he also used the iPhone 6. He said at the beginning of the video that I saw that some people were reporting that it also happens with just the regular 6, which is a 4.7-inch device. And I kind of thought that's probably somebody really, really doing a number, because I that's not big enough. I don't think, aluminum or not, that that kind of weakness could be exploited easily. And he, in fact, tried to do it. And while it did make some noises, kind of the screen kind of popped a little bit. It didn't break, but just kind of popped out of place and it's easily snapped back in. He couldn't duplicate what? He couldn't duplicate it on the 6, what he was able to do on the 6 Plus. And the other devices just wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't bend. So, the fact is the 6 Plus in my opinion, is a bad design. I think they should have gone with different materials or put something in there to reinforce the aluminum so that it would not succumb to that kind of a bend. Now, obviously, as he showed, if you bend yours, don't try to bend it back because depending on the degree of the bend, you may end up breaking your glass. So I would just say keep it the way it is and let Apple take care of it. Because if there's anything I do know, as much as I hate Apple, they do a pretty good job of taking care of their customers. So it's just that first you have to get them to admit there's a problem. And so they're trying to tell everybody, oh, you're holding it wrong, or you're sitting on it wrong, or what's just funny, I thought, I'll bet you now we're going to see, and of course we're seeing a lot of parodies come out, but I thought, okay, it's just a matter of time before we see somebody advertising pants made for iPhone. And sure enough, I did a search, and I came across a website talking about, let's see if I can bring it up here. A little thing in USA Today. Let me switch back again. These are built for the iPhone 6 Plus. So they're talking about the design, how it's a pocket on the thigh, basically, so that you don't run into those issues because you don't bend there. So I just thought it was funny. Thing is, a lot of people wear their pants fairly tight, especially if you're a girl. A lot of girls wear the tight pants. And depending on where their pocket is, if they're wearing the really low hip hugger type pants and you stick your iPhone 6 Plus in your back pocket, there's a good chance that you're going to, that you could sit down in a way that puts that same kind of stress very easily because your whole body weight would be on it. So it'd be very easy to accidentally bend the heck out of that thing. So if you have a 6 Plus, actually, if you have any Apple product, I feel sorry for you, but if you have a 6 Plus, be very careful about where you place it. And if you happen to bend yours, I suggest you don't bend it back. I would suggest that if you're going to stick with the Apple, that maybe you see about getting exchanged for just a regular 6. That's plenty big enough, and you're not going to run into the issues that the 6 Plus has. But it's up to you. It's your dollars, several $100s. We've been getting a lot more rain here. And matter of fact, the last few days, again, I looked out in our little watering trough that we use for cleaning gear, and I've got almost 4 inches of water in there just in the last couple of days. So it's been just crazy. And so today has just been, the sun came out for a little bit this afternoon, and but it just kept threatening the rain clouds. And I'm sure over the lake it would have been even worse because it always draws more wet stuff over the lake. But I was hoping maybe somebody would be up for dive. So I did post something on our Facebook page. Didn't get any takers, unfortunately. A number of views, but no takers. So I wasn't able to get a dive in today, and I'm really depressed about that because it's been a couple of weeks now since I've been hitting the water, and maybe we'll see what happens tomorrow, see what the weather's like. Matter of fact, let me check the weather app and see if it says anything. Although, here's the thing about weather in Del Rio. You can predict it, or you can attempt to predict it, but you almost never can get it right. And so it may say there's going to be tons of rain, and then we get absolutely nothing, and then have the exact opposite happen where you're hey, it's going to be mostly sunny tomorrow with only a 5% chance of precipitation, and then you get up and find it's just like storm after storm after storm, just nothing but a a series of isolated storms coming over. So today, daily. Well, it says, it's so funny. It says, 20% chance of rain today. And I'm sorry, we had rain. Tomorrow, 0% chance. Going to be high of 87. So that would be, and mostly sunny. So if you're watching and you happen to be in the local Del Rio local area, going to be trying to pull off a dive tomorrow afternoon. So if you're up for it, love to have you come out there to Spur 454, because that's where I'm going to be, weather permitting, of course. Let's see. Oh, one thing I was going to look up and totally forgot to, but I can while I'm talking to y'all. If you were watching last week or watched the last couple of episodes, we were talking about the Quinta S, which was a relatively small cargo ship. I think it was 150 feet long or something like that. Let's see. Artificial reef was, the 2 weeks ago we were talking about how it was making its way to the Port Aransas area to be sunk in 75 feet of water, about 8 miles off of Mustang Island, and that they finally sunk it on the 17th. And let's see. What I'm hoping for is that we actually have some video of people actually diving on it. Maybe it's too soon. Dun, dun, dun. Let's try diving on Quinta S. Uh, 7 seconds. I don't see. Nope. Don't see any video of that. Darn. Maybe still too soon after the sinking, but hopefully we'll see some videos of the first folks to dive on the Quinta S. That would be awesome to see what that's like, because it really looked, the ship itself was really set up nicely for the dive, and a lot of cutouts, the bridge area. That's always a fun place to dive. And of course, because of the way the cargo ship is, there's the main part of the hull is actually quite open, because I guess they just simply lower. It wasn't a covered deck, so they could lower containers in there, so they go below the water line. Most of them settle below the water line, keeping it stable. So, that part would be kind of boring to dive on, but getting to the swim-throughs in the crew compartments and the bridge would be pretty cool. Let's see, checking the chat room. Nobody joining us just now. Let me go to our Facebook page, see if there's any activity. Nothing there yet. Okay. So, in sticking with the Bendgate theme, I thought it would be a good idea to just kind of revisit a little bit of discussion about the bends, which is kind of an old school term for what we now call decompression sickness or decompression illness. Now, the two are not quite interchangeable. You'll hear some people talk about DCI and some people talk about DCS. So I thought, okay, well, let's do just a little refresher on that for folks who are divers, especially if you're a new diver or if you're looking at getting into diving. And it's important to understand some of the basic concepts here. So decompression illness is a bigger term that encompasses decompression sickness and maladies that are associated directly with decompression sickness, as opposed to, and then also includes arterial gas embolisms, which can be symptomatic, can be caused by decompression sickness. But when we put those two together, the all-encompassing term that we use is decompression illness. So, why does it happen? Well, the simplest explanation that everybody is typically aware of is you come to the surface too fast. But that's not the whole. That's not the whole story. Depressurization causes inert gases that were dissolved in tissues under high pressure to come out of solution. Now, in other words, when you're breathing the air we have, that we live in, that we walk through, that blows across the plains, is it's 21% oxygen. So really, well, that is our life-giving gas, the gas that we actually process. We're only breathing, the air we breathe is only 21% O2. 79% is nitrogen, an inert gas, and then also some trace gases in there, okay? Now, when you go diving, or if you are in an aircraft and you're breathing compressed air, and then you go down to a deeper, you come down to sea level, or if you're diving, which is even more dramatic change in pressure, you're now increasing the amount of pressure on your body, and so everything compresses. Every airspace that you have starts to experience compression. The air, which is of course the least resistant as opposed to solid matter of everything that makes up your body, compresses very dramatically. If you go down to 33 feet, the air that you have in your spaces wants to compress down to half its size. That's just going down to 33 feet. So if you were to hold your breath at the surface, not breathing compressed air, but just hold your breath at the surface, and this is what whales do, this is what free divers do. If you were to hold your breath at the surface and then free dive down to 33 feet, the air in your lungs would compress down to half the physical volume that you have at the surface. Then when you come back up to the surface, the pressure is reduced and it expands again to normal volume. Now, imagine if you are down at 33 feet and you're breathing compressed air. So it's filling your lungs up to their normal physical capacity, but at 33 feet, it takes twice as much air to actually fill your lungs up because it's compressing. So if you were to hold your breath, if you're down at 33 feet and you take a deep breath off of a compressed air cylinder, a regulator, at 33 feet, and then hold your breath and come up to the surface, if you did not let the air loose, if you did not release it, your lungs would explode. And or you could experience arterial gas embolism. The compressed air, as that is going into your tissues, the longer you stay down, the more of those inert gases get pushed into your various tissues. Now, because they're inert, they don't cause any damage by just being there. It's when you come up that air wants to come out of solution. Similar, and this is a common mechanism used to help folks understand what's going on. When you have a bottle of soda, CO2 is compressed into, it's pumped into, pressurized into that fluid. And you'll notice that for the most part, when you're looking at a clear bottle of 7-Up or Coke or whatever, and you don't shake it or anything, and you just have the bottle there, you don't see that there's a lot of CO2 compressed into that fluid because it's not doing anything. Just like when you breathe normal air, compressed air, that's normal 2179 split, and you're just sitting there. You're not moving up or down in the water column. It's not doing anything. It's inert. But if you were to quickly open the lid on that soda bottle, what happens? Well, all of a sudden it starts fizzing. Well, what's happened is you have relieved the pressure very quickly that was being held against that fluid. And so the first thing that happens is some of that CO2 wants to escape out of solution to reach equilibrium with the new pressure around it. And so it bubbles out the quickest way it can. Well, the same thing happens to your body. If you come up too quickly, then that means those inert gases depressurize. They come out of solution. And that's kind of a little bit of a misnomer, because it's not just coming out of solution, it's coming out of your tissues. And they form gas bubbles within the body. Now, those gas bubbles can find a number of places to escape from, okay? Through the joints, through the skin, through the lungs, and cause all sorts of issues. Normally, what we call the bends. If we ascend slowly, the gas is simply aspirated. In other words, it's released normally through the normal chemical reaction of your blood moving through your system and the veins and capillaries letting the inert gases be released through the tissues into the system, and then you simply breathe them out. That's what aspiration is. You breathe them out. But as it turns out, if you go up too fast, then what can happen is that the bubbles can form instead of staying at the tiniest size, and they won't aspirate. They'll escape in a more direct route. The smaller a bubble is in the water, the slower it's going to move. Bigger bubbles are going to move up faster. So you've got to control. That's why we say control your ascent, and you don't hold your breath. 89% of decompression sickness is expressed in local joint pain, which causes people to double over. 70% of DCS symptoms are expressed in symptoms in the arms, and 30% in the legs, and that's why we call them the bends. See if I can get this to change. Go. It's not letting me change the slide. There we go. So AGE, arterial gas embolism. If gas comes out of a solution, as with too quick of an ascent, then it forms bubbles and enters the vascular system, and those bubbles then can enter the heart through the right side, because they come into the heart and then they're pumped into the lungs. That bloodstream is pumped into the lungs. If the bubbles make it there, then those bubbles can actually cause the vessels in the lung to constrict, and it actually raises the pressure, and can actually allow those bubbles to pass right on through the lungs and into the left side of the heart. If they get to the left side of the heart, because that's where the oxygen is exchanged typically, when it goes back into the left side of the heart, and it's pumped back out to your system, guess where it's going? It's going to the brain. And this is where you can have things like stroke, etc., caused by an air embolism. Now, while more commonly for divers, that if you experience that, it's going to be nitrogen, but it doesn't have to be nitrogen, because as I mentioned, you're still breathing. When you're breathing regular air, it could be any of those trace gases too, because those also go into solution. Those are also pressurized. And if you happen to be diving with some of the mixed gases, where like heliox or a trimix, then the helium actually can be more dangerous because helium, it weighs less, and so it reacts more dramatically with pressure changes than does nitrogen. So you could actually have that escape into your system much quicker than nitrogen. So it doesn't matter the inert gas you're breathing. Any of those can cause the kind of issue we're talking about. Also, if you're holding your breath, which is why the number one rule in diving is never hold your breath. If you're holding your breath while ascending, you can actually force, because it starts to rupture the structure of your lungs, you can actually force those bubbles into your vascular system directly from the lungs, not just because it's escaping out of solution in your tissues, but because you're holding it into your lungs, and you actually, the air wants to go somewhere. If you're holding your breath, it wants to go somewhere. And one of the ways one of the somewheres is right through the walls of your lungs and create a pneumothorax, what we call pneumothorax. But another way it can actually be forced, similar to what we described with a regular AGE, forced right into the bloodstream, going to the left side of the heart and then out to the brain, or also the spinal column. If you get it there, it can result in paralysis and death. So it's why we say never, ever, 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 ever hold your breath. It's important to remember that. So that's just a little refresher on DCS, DCI, AGE, arterial gas embolism, and what that means for you. So, but we teach you, when we teach the classes, that's why we teach in the way we do. And we stress how important it is to get those skills down, understand why they're important, and keep practicing them. You do the controlled emergency swimming ascent, doing the ah sound through the regulator all the way up, because you will be essentially coming up on whatever breath you got out of your tank before you realize you have to go to the surface. So that would be kind of like holding your breath at depth, but we make sure that you don't by making you do the ah sound. So that way that air is going somewhere. It's escaping through your mouth as you say ah coming up. Okay. We had a newer diver in the chat room last week, and he was talking about places that he's been diving, but he'd never been to Balmorhea, and so we thought there may be some other folks that have not been diving at Balmorhea. As a matter of fact, some of my former students from earlier this year had not been there yet, and so I thought, okay, well, let's reprise our video from last year. The anniversary weekend is last August, our trip to Balmorhea. So you can get, for those who are not familiar with Balmorhea and how really a special place it is for divers. So we'll just sit back and we'll watch that video. the video or the visibility is typically amazing. The fish are very used to people. Yours truly. See, that is the kind of comfort with your position in the water that all divers should strive for. With new divers, it's always a struggle initially because they feel like they have to be standing. But if you get your buoyancy control down and you get in a mental state where you're okay not being always right side up. You're going to use a lot less air. You're going to be much more relaxed and more comfortable during a dive. I love diving inverted because I'm very comfortable with buoyancy control. And most of the time I'm very, very aware of where my feet are. And the type of fin that you use can help you with that too. The shorter, stiffer fins tend to kick up less, and you're less likely to have them doing things that you don't have feedback on, that you don't feel. The kind of fins I'm typically wearing, my split fins, are longer and provide a lot more in low or no current environment. Very little effort to move, so I don't have to kick a lot to move very well. But the downside of that is because of their flexibility and their length, you can be disconnected from their motion if you're not consciously making yourself aware, which means you can kick up a lot of stuff. When we go to Balmorhea, the best diving is typically that Friday evening or first thing Saturday morning, because there's it's a very popular place for classes. Of course, the problem with that is a bunch of new divers, and they're all kicking up silt. They come screaming through because they think they want to get their move around there fast instead of just relax and enjoy it. And so they're usually on the bottom or close to it, and they're kicking really, really. They're either incorrectly kicking or bicycle kicking, or they're overextending a regular flutter kick or scissor kick, and they're just kicking up. They're tearing up the bottom. himself in the grass. There's typically 3 turtles there. There's a large one, there's a medium-sized one, and there's a small one. For those who might be wondering, this was filmed in using the Sea Life DC 1400 Pro Duo camera. Excellent camera. The person using it notwithstanding, I'm still learning. One thing I've discovered with this camera is for video, if you focus it ahead of time, then it stays focused at that and won't let you refocus till you stop the video and then do it again. But if you just start the video, it basically does a fixed focal length and keeps everything generally in focus. I'm making. I felt like constructing something. My own little fortress or Stonehenge or whatever. But see, again, being comfortable with your buoyancy control and knowing what your body is doing, you'll notice that while these are heavy, I'm not flailing about, so I'm not kicking up an inordinate amount of the bottom. Heavy. Further along here. By the way, since it's spring fed, the water temperature is 74 to 76 degrees, and when wearing the Farmer John type shorty that I was wearing, you do get a chill. You're only 20 feet max there in depth, so a 80 cubic foot tank like I'm wearing can last you a couple of hours if you're relaxed. But if you're relaxed, you're going to be generating a lot less heat, so you can get chilled pretty quick. I say pretty quick. You may not be able to, the average diver may not be able to spend a full hour on a half a tank in the kind of wetsuit I'm wearing. You'll often see at least a 3 mil full, sometimes a 5 mil full, and there are times I'll wear a 5 mil full down there so I'm more comfortable for a longer time. But doing this kind of work actually helps bring my temperature up a little bit. Some kid was messing around with my fort. He was torturing a poor That's why they come around when you move your fingers really quickly. They think you're feeding them. Okay, so for those who were interested, again, that's Balmorhea State Park. That is just a great place to go. Very relaxed. I enjoy the drive there, even though we're towing the trailer. When we go, I enjoy the drive up there. It's just pretty. It's 4 hours, so you want to make sure you're well rested, but it just makes for a relaxing weekend. That's the kind of place that I would love to do the full 3-day thing. Go up on a Friday. Come back late Sunday, or even stay there until on Monday. But unfortunately, since I'm praise and worship leader at our church, we typically have to drive back late Saturday evening, so cuts the trip short basically. But that's a great place to go. I cannot recommend that place highly enough. All right, as we're winding down here, let's jump into a little administrivia. Okay, next Dive Club meeting, 16 October at 7 p.m. at Rudy's Restaurant. Be there or be square. Have no more scheduled dive classes for this year, but if I have sufficient interest and the weather is decent enough, I can be convinced for a nominal fee to knock out another class. So, but you need to let me know as soon as possible, because I don't think the weather is going to hold much longer. It's amazing. We normally will see the weather way decent well into October, but it's already starting to drop pretty dramatically. If you need air fills and you're in the Del Rio area, contact Mike McCarson out at Broke Mill RV Park. I know that seems an unlikely place to get your air fills, but he's a former diver. He really hasn't been diving in several years, but his Cascade system has kind of made the rounds of a couple of different dive shops in town, and finally, once those all closed back up, he reacquired. Well, he was leasing it out to all these people, but it's now back in his hands, and he set up a shack there, a building at Broke Mill RV Park out on Highway 90 West, to house the system. So if you let him know ahead of time, then he can fire up everything and fill your tanks. Just give him a call at 830-719-2935, and he will help you out. Speaking of helping out, my wife and I, if you follow the show at all, you know that my wife and I volunteer at a Pet's Wish, which is the local pet rescue here. They are really desperate for some regular volunteers. They do such great work. There's a number of just really neglected and abused animals that end up in their care, and it only survives with the help of volunteers, which they do not have nearly enough. And it's not just enough to go out once in a while. They need folks that, like Tara and I, who can volunteer to go out on a regular basis. We always go out on a Monday night, and that's again, that's on my calendar. That's on our calendar, our family calendar. That's what we do. That's what we do every week, every Monday. We go help out there. We feed, water, and clean up kennels and put to bed all the animals there. And then they need folks in the mornings as well. If they could just get a couple of volunteers every morning and every night, and then maybe one or two during the day, just kind of help with just general things around the office there, it would make things so much easier for everybody. You wouldn't spend 3 or 4 hours at a time. It'd only be a couple of hours, and you could still get the rest of your evening free or morning free. So look them up on Facebook, and you can connect with them. And just like I said, if you're in the Del Rio area, please, 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 please consider volunteering on a regular basis. And even if you just don't have the time or the way there, they can always use monetary donations or donations of food. Now, if you donate food and certain supplies, they have specific requirements that you really need to adhere to because it maintains a consistency in the health of the animals. So if you can't acquire like the particular type of food that they need for the animals, just a monetary donation will be fine, and because they use, they spin up a pretty huge vet bill taking care of these animals, especially when they come in the kind of condition that they come in. They're sick, broken legs, you would be mortified if you were aware of the conditions that some of these animals end up showing up on the doorstep of a pet's wish. And just God bless them for existing and being out there to help all these poor animals. It's a privilege, often painful, but it's a privilege to be able to help out with a pet's wish and help all those little animals. Okay, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you could jump onto our Dive Club webpage. Just go to delriodiveclub.com. Or if you want to keep on touch with the more active things going on, like when we're going out diving, check us out on Facebook. Just look for Del Rio Dive Club on Facebook, and you will find us. Or send us messages via Skype. You can just send it to TGWD. And, of course, if you'd like to be in contact with me, you can send me an email at Robert. Just send it to robert.wade@cetifox.net, right there in the lower third. Or follow me on Twitter. Just look for @RobertCFP, Charlie Foxtrot Pueblo, or Ceti Fox Productions, as it actually is. So, and I'd love, and I will typically follow you back. If you're not just being a troll, I'll follow you back as well if you follow me on Twitter. Love hearing from you guys. There was nobody in the chat room this week. John was in there last week and had some good questions and comments. Hopefully he's getting to see this episode and he'll be able to visit Balmorhea, at least electronically, digitally. That pretty much wraps everything up for this week. If all goes well, we'll be back next week, and we will see you there and then on another exciting episode of Two Guys Who Dive. See ya.